Hi Flat Earthers, this is Zach.
And this is Karen B.
A while ago, Neil deGrasse Tyson came back with another video to debunk the Flat Earthers.
Usually, when somebody tells you to give them a proof about something, naturally, you give them your best proof.
So what is his best proof?
So tell me, Neil, is the Earth flat?
We have video from space of the rotating spherical Earth. The Earth is round.
So you heard it yourself. Proof number one.
We have video of Earth from space. The Earth is round.
What we want to know now is what video he's talking about.
We looked for videos of Earth from space on their own website and we got nothing. We looked it up in Google and we couldn't find it.
Maybe you can help us find a video of Earth from space, a real one. The only thing that we could find was videos of Earth from the ISS that show a small part of the Earth. So that must be what he meant. So Mr. Neil, if these are not the videos you were talking about, you can send us the links with all the necessary details that we may need. Let's take a look at one of the ISS videos.
Technically, the ISS cannot see the entire Earth, so they just see a little part of it. Is that how big the Earth is? How can a little part of Earth prove the shape of the Earth? Is it because it turns around it so fast? Or does a little arch prove the shape of the Earth? What if the arch is just a lens effect like this picture? Or like this one? The angle of a 14mm lens is 106 degrees, so with that lens they can see around 1,154 kilometers. But wide lenses are curved like a GoPro camera. Whenever you use a wide lens, you usually see curved lines. And what if the ISS videos are nothing but CGI? It doesn't look real at all. Do you think it's hard to fake? Here is a zero-budget video made by Steve Torrance. He could have made a better CGI than NASA if he spent more time on it, so his only budget is time. Is there any footage of Earth from space? Is there a 24-hour video of Earth from space? Most of the ISS videos are cut for connectivity reasons, which is obviously a lie because their connection is always good when they live stream from the inside of the ISS.
Look out my window, there goes home.
So they cannot give us very long videos because we will know that they are lying. We will know that the clouds are fake because they cannot have them on the correct position all the time. They know that we will catch them lying, so they will never do this unless they discover a new way to fake it.
And by the way, one day we asked a Spanish astronaut, Pedro Duque, to take a cat and a bird and an insect with him to space to see how they will move in zero gravity. And guess what? The astronaut deleted the comments right away. Here is a proof.
Hello, Pedro. Can you take to space a little bird and an insect and a kitty to see how they will react without gravity? I don't understand why we still don't have a video with animals in space. Is it too hard to make them act like you guys do?
So what are they afraid of? Why didn't they take insects and birds and cats with them to space long time ago? I think we should attack them with comments like that and see what they will tell us. What do you think?
Let's move to his next proof.
What's odd is there are people who think Earth is flat,
Right.
but recognize that the moon is round. Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, and the sun are all spheres, but Earth is flat. That's not, something doesn't square.
Something doesn't jive, right?
Okay.
This is the typical question that most people ask when you tell them that the Earth is flat. They imagine it like a disk in space with all those planets around it. They keep the same globe model and they just change the shape of the Earth. This is why their next question is always, where's the edge? Or, why don't you go find the edge of the Earth?
Dear Globe Earth believers, we love you. But when we say that the Earth is flat, we do not mean that the Earth is a flying disc and water is falling out of the edge. Please stop imagining the Earth like that. What we mean is that the Earth is the basement of the universe, and the universe is not what you think it is. So some flat earthers believe that the Earth is an infinite plane and the stars and planets are circling above it. And some believe that it's a closed system with a dome on it, and that it's impossible to go through it. And other flat earth researchers believe other things based on their knowledge and experiments. There are too many theories. To sum it up, none of us know the real shape of the entire Earth as an object, but we all agree that it's flat from the surface that we live on, because we can prove it from Earth itself. Almost all flat earthers believe that stars and planets are just little lights in the sky, not as big and far as NASA says. So when you say that if all planets are round then the Earth cannot be flat, then you are considering the Earth as a planet too, and that is not what we say or think. So that is a false claim in the first place. This is exactly like saying, if all these pool balls are spherical, then the pool table must be spherical too.
You must unlearn what you have learned.
And if you still have the same question in your head, then here is something curious for you to think about. How do we know that the moon is a sphere? Have we ever seen the other side of it? No. I will let my friend Karen B show you a little demonstration.
When something is round and too far away from you, you cannot say what shape it is. It can be a flat plate, it can be oblate, it can be concave, it can be a sphere. You just can't tell. Here are 4 objects. They all look round, right? But are they all spheres? How would we know? What if I told you that there is only one object that is not spherical? Can you tell what it is? Can you tell me how you knew it? How would we even know the distance? I can tell you that they are 100 feet away and you will believe it, but they can only be a few inches away.
And I can tell you that they are 10 meters in diameter, but they could only be 5 centimeters in diameter. You can never know using your camera.
Please look at them carefully. Here is the only object that is not spherical here. Here it is. I bet you thought it would be another one. But it will blow your mind if I tell you that this second object is also not spherical, and it's flat. And it will blow your mind even more if I tell you that this third object is concave. But how about this one? This is the only spherical object. We could have an oblate object and you would think it's spherical as well. So looking at something round does not mean it's a sphere. Have you ever seen the moon rotating in the sky? You have always seen one side of it, which makes it impossible for anyone to say the moon is spherical. However, using the word round is correct. A plate is also round. Look at this moon right here. Does it look round? Yes. Does it look like a sphere? Yes. Is it really a sphere? Let's find out. Well, it's not. It's flat. You got tricked again. Please bear in mind that there is no refraction between the camera and the moon image. Imagine if you are looking at this image from underwater. You would not only have a problem of determining the shape or distance of it, but you will also have a problem with determining the position of it, because refraction changes the position of anything. So how do we know the shape of the moon? We will have to go to it. So who went to the moon? NASA or other space agencies?
Who told you the moon is a sphere?
NASA.
NASA and other space agencies have been caught lying many times. How can we trust liars? If you think that they really went to the moon, then you need to do some good research before watching this video. All moon landings are staged and only a gullible person believes them. How did they even know that the moon is something they could walk on to send people to it? How can they go to the moon if at that time the distance to it was unconfirmed? How can they succeed at everything in their first try? Why didn't they go back? Alright. They lost the technology and it's a painful process to build it again. It's not me who's saying this. Check this out.
I'd go to the moon in a nanosecond. The problem is we don't have the technology to do that anymore. We used to, but we destroyed that technology, and it's a painful process to build it back again.
NASA?
Are you telling us that you get that incredible budget to hire a bunch of lazy people? Painful process? Seriously?
So we believe that the moon is a sphere just because the government told us so. Like the government never lied to you about anything and whatever they say is true. We are now arguing about the moon because they supposedly have been to it, but if we talk about other planets, we will see that they just assumed they are spheres. They didn't even go to them. They just looked at them through a telescope and told you an imaginary distance because it matched some triangulations, and they just told you that they are spherical without even going there. And guess what? You just believed it without question. We don't blame you though. We all thought they were telling the truth until we started to see the lies, and then we woke up.
I see dead people.
But they are now trying to spread false information to make the flat earthers look so stupid so nobody can take us seriously. And you have to be very careful with that. If this is your first flat earth video, please don't make it the last.
Neil said something beautiful in this video. Let me show it to you.
If you're going to say something and you think what you're saying is true, then no matter how obvious you think it is that it's true, you should still test it.
Gotcha.
There could be something fooling you in one way or another.
Globe believers, have you ever tested the globe?
No.
But we have. NASA, have you ever tested the globe? You have not. You said you shoot a powerful laser to a mirror you left on the moon, and it comes back to Earth, and this is how you know the distance to the moon. Now, if you really do that, and I am sure that you don't, then why don't you shoot that laser parallel to the ground and show us the curvature?
Science says that gravity bends the light, right? So with that being said, your laser would hit the ground somewhere, or it would turn around the Earth like this and hit you from behind. Why don't you do this demonstration and leave the laser like that for years until we all know that the laser is really bending around the globe? But hey, shoot it towards the south, please. Is this so hard for you to do, Mr. Neil? Don't you have the money to do so? I guess you already have the laser, so all you have to do is put it parallel to the ground. It shouldn't cost you any money at all.
If you are running out of ideas, you could come to us and we will give you all the ideas that you need to prove the shape of the Earth from Earth. See, those that realise we don't live on a ball are trying to collaborate with you.
Okay, let's move to his third proof.
If you want to say Earth is flat, then, for example, lunar eclipses.
Oh.
What's a lunar eclipse? If your face is the brilliant sun,
Thank you.
and this is Earth, and the moon is over here, the sun is always casting Earth's shadow into space. It's always there no matter what.
Right.
Obviously, okay? It's just a shadow.
It's a shadow.
The moon
It's just a shadow
occasionally...
shining on blackness.
Yeah, a shadow in darkness.
It's shadow in darkness.
So the moon occasionally passes through that shadow. And if you see the shape of Earth's shadow on the moon, it is always round. Always round. If Earth were flat, sometimes you get like a flat shadow.
Right.
We've never seen a flat shadow.
Right.
In fact, it is a segment of a arc of a circle, no matter the orientation of the moon and the sun. And the only thing that makes a perfectly circular shadow
Would be something that's perfectly circular.
perfectly spherical.
Spherical. Right.
Yes. So the only thing that makes a perfect circle shadow every single time is a perfect sphere.
Right.
Okay? No matter what angle
matter
you
where
shine.
you're shining.
Whereas a disc, it would only make a perfect circle if you lined it that way.
Right.
And
So
then
you
they
have to look at the face of the disc in order to get the circle.
The circle. If
If
any
you-
other angle,
you
get other shapes.
something of another
The
shape.
Greeks knew this.
Right.
All the lunar eclipses they said, oh my gosh, we must be in a round Earth. This is thousands of years,
Before
2,000 years
Columbus.
before Columbus. Exactly.
So Neil deGrasse Tyson is trying to tell us that if you see a shadow on any object in the sky, it means that it's the Earth shadow. And that of course proves the shape of the Earth. If the shadow is round, then the Earth is a sphere. And if it's flat, then the Earth is flat. Thank you, Neil. I didn't know your best proof would be that ridiculous. We actually talked about this before, but we will explain it a bit more now. Please, Karen B, show them some demonstrations.
First off, we never said that the flat Earth can go between the moon and the sun, so the shadow you see on the moon is not the Earth's shadow. And it could be anything else. It could be a shadow that is coming from the moon itself. Why do we even call it a shadow? What if there is a light in the center of the moon that turns around and around? What if there is another object that is eclipsing the moon, like in the solar eclipse when the moon eclipses the sun, Mr. Neil? Why does it have to be the Earth? Because it matches the calculations of the globe model?
So if we make different calculations that match with reality, can we just assume that our model is the truth? Why don't we have a full video from space when this eclipse happens, Mr. Neil? Where are these videos? We can't find them in your websites or in any other websites. We only find cartoons. Is that how you prove something scientifically? With calculations and cartoons? Come on, Neil. We thought you were smarter than that.
Look how ridiculous your claim is. Even if we assume that the Earth is like this, and the moon is a ball, then the shadow might look curved as well. Even if you orientate the flat disk like this, the shadow will always be curved. It will only be flat on a flat surface.
Well, it can also look flat on a ball if you look at it from a certain position. But the Earth is supposedly 4 times bigger than the moon. So, from one latitude or longitude line, you will be able to see the flat shadow. But from the rest of the globe Earth, you will see a curved shadow. But again, this is not even what we say, Mr. Neil. We are just playing with your theories.
OMG, Neil, I am so disappointed. Anyway, let's move to the fourth proof.
So now if the Earth is round, how big is Earth? You might want to check for that. There was a famous experiment conducted by Eratosthenes. Eratosthenes. And the 2 cities in the old world, and one of them, they knew that at 12 noon on a particular day of the year, that the sun was directly overhead and you could see the bottom of a well.
Oh, okay.
You don't run around looking at the bottoms of wells.
No.
Because the light doesn't take, it's just, no.
Doesn't get down there.
Doesn't get down there.
How can we use this observation to see if Earth's surface is curved? We needed another well. Turns out we can't see the bottom of both wells at the same time. What might explain this? Well, there are 2 possible explanations. First, we could have a flat Earth with the sun that's small and close by, so that the light hits the second well at an angle. Or second, we could have a curved Earth with a sun that's big and far away, so that all the light comes in parallel, but only one well at a time is lit all the way to the bottom. Turns out with just 2 wells, there's enough wiggle room for both explanations to fit our observations. Eratosthenes only had 2 wells, but what if he had added a third? With a third well, it doesn't matter where the sun is. No flat Earth model can explain the angles of all 3 shadows, but the spherical model explains it all 3 angles, with ease.
And to do this experiment, you got to measure the angles. Greeks had the angles.
Yeah.
Okay, in fact, geometry translates to Earth measurement.
Well, here comes a new thing. This is a new claim from Globe Believers. Thank you, Neil. I am glad you finally considered our theory. So you are saying that Eratosthenes should have at least used 3 wells to confirm the shape of the Earth. But why didn't he do it? Was it so hard to do? Anyway, he did it or not, he is already debunked. Here is a video that I made before you even made this interview to debunk Eratosthenes' method. Check it out and tell me if the flat Earth model still doesn't work.
Zach's experiment in fact proved that Eratosthenes' experiments require a second look. There are at least 2 possible ways to make the angles of elevation work. The first possible way is what the globe model is, a curved land and parallel sun rays. And the second possible way is a flat land and a curved sky and refracted sun rays. Eratosthenes chose the first option without considering the effect of the atmosphere, like the atmosphere didn't exist at that time. Now, modern science agrees that the atmosphere works as a lens, but in the meantime it agrees with Eratosthenes' experiment. These are 2 very different ways of thinking, and we cannot have it both ways. If science agrees that refraction changes the sun's position, then science is admitting that there is no way they can triangulate the sun from Earth. Therefore, the distance to the sun and the size of it should remain unknown. Now if we go back to Zach's experiment, we will see that he made the math that Eratosthenes used to prove his theory works on a flat land as well. And all he did was consider the effect of the atmosphere. So he put some nails on a flat table just to measure the angles of elevation the same way Eratosthenes did. And he added a concave lens considering that the atmosphere works as a concave lens. He did the same math and got a circumference of a ball. So if Eratosthenes was a small person on that table that cannot see the lens that is representing the atmosphere, he would think that the flat table he is standing on is actually a globe, because his math is based on the light rays being parallel. You cannot make assumptions and build the entire model based on that same assumption. So there you go, Neil. The angles of elevation can work on a flat land if we include the atmosphere, or let's just say refraction, to our math. How can you ignore the atmosphere's effect, Mr. Neil?
I can't summarize it better. Thank you, brother. So, by just adding a concave lens above the flat Earth, it made all angles of elevation work perfectly just like they work on the globe. But now, you are going to say that there is no dome above us. But I'm not even saying that there is a dome. I am just saying that the atmosphere could be working like the concave lens. Of course, you will say that the atmosphere bends the light downwards, and you will give me an example by shooting the laser through water. But the atmosphere is not like water, and you should already know that. So we did long distance laser tests to see how refraction works on the air, and we discovered that it bends the light upwards instead of downwards. So we have proved with the experiments that the atmosphere can bend the light upwards, which means that the sunlight can be bent in the opposite direction like I showed in this experiment. And that will make the flat Earth model important, because you assume that when the apparent sun is above the horizon line, the real sun is already below it. But our experiments prove the opposite. And that is a big problem for your model. But you will ignore it and answer me with more assumptions. Many people may not understand what I'm talking about here, but I am sure you understand it very well, Neil. If the atmosphere bends the light upwards, you got a serious problem with the entire globe model. The apparent sun that you claim it's above the real sun during sunset or sunrise, now it would be below the real sun. And that means your entire model is debunked.
Now we just showed you that there is a scientific explanation that explains that. What else you gonna say? Let's move on to the fifth proof.
So one last thing, which should be obvious,
Okay.
if you pay attention and think about it. If you send a ship straight to the horizon,
Right.
eventually it begins to disappear until it's no longer visible beyond your horizon.
Right.
And you should ask yourself, what kind of surface would produce that result?
The ocean.
If it's
the ocean has a ramp. It's like a parking lot. The ocean has a ramp.
And it's an elevator.
It's an elevator. And you get to a certain point, and they're just like going down.
Seafarers knew this.
Right.
And so, however flat they would have imagined the Earth to be, they couldn't have accepted it to be completely flat, because otherwise you would never not see the ship. Okay.
So ships disappear behind the horizon line. What kind of surface would produce that result? Well, a cylindrical surface makes more sense in this case, Mr. Neil, because the horizon looks flat from right to left. What would happen if that ship turns 90 degrees left or right? If we were on a ball, what would happen? I know you would say that our view vision is like a circle around us, but that would still work better on a cylindrical surface.
Well, I guess Rob Skiba has a good explanation for this.
Now here's the other issue. People who think ships are disappearing over the curve in 3, 4, 5 miles distance, it's got to work both ways. I mean, if we're on a ball, then when the ship is going away from you on the, let's say, the z-axis, going, from you to a point away from you, and it's rolling over the ball in 3 to 5 miles, then you should have the exact same effect looking left to right on the x-axis. You should be seeing ships rolling up to the top of the ball and rolling down on the lateral x-axis. If it's a ball, they got to be rolling both ways, away from you and side to side. We never see that though. You can go to the beach and do a panoramic shot and put a parallel line over it, and from end to end, and this is a lot more than just 5 miles, there's no perceived curvature here. None. Flat as a pancake. In fact, these are some pictures I took on the beach at Malibu, California. And I went from there way up into the mountains above Pepperdine University and looked out. And I mean, easily there's got to be probably close to 100 miles left to right. The distance on the horizon there, it's got to be, quite a bit there. Put a parallel line over it, flat. So you can't have it both ways. You can't say ships are rolling over the ball on the z-axis without having the same exact perception on the x-axis. Okay, going back to this picture right here, showing the perception differences when you're zooming in and out. Here's another shot right here. This boat came into view as I was zooming out. Zooming out, zooming out, zooming out, and it rose higher on the horizon. See, when I was zoomed in on him, there's all this space right here from the bottom of the boat to the horizon, and when it's further away, that distance shrinks. So our eyes start playing tricks on us. Now, to better illustrate this, I created this little animation right here, and this represents about a mile worth of ocean. All right, so when you're looking, you can see the difference in how each of these ships looks like it's higher and higher up on the water level. Now that's on flat water, no waves at all. Now let's look at this same animation. I created some waves no higher than the height of the camera. In fact, a few times you'll see the camera go right through the waves, but the wave height was about as high as the camera, which was just a little bit above the water. Okay, so let's look at the same exact animation, this time with some waves. Okay, there's wave, 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 wave. Okay, over the distance here, the cumulative effect of the waves obscures the hull of ships. That's just what happens with the perspective. As the ships get higher and higher up on the horizon, as you get further and further away, and you have the compounding of the waves over that distance, it's really easy to see how you end up with the illusion of ships rolling over the ball when it has nothing to do with that at all. This is a flat plane. Here's the two pictures side by side with flat water with no waves and then with waves.
Not to mention that if that ship stops where you can't see it anymore and wait until the weather clears up, you will be able to see it again. And I'm not gonna mention those who bring ships back into view with a telescope or with a Nikon P900, because I got a different opinion about that.
Final proof, Neil.
Also, if I just tell you, Chuck, walk due east, okay?
Right.
And don't ever stop.
Right.
I just turn around my chair and face this way, and eventually you're going to come back.
Right. And you'll probably be about 150 years old. Because I am no Forrest Gump. That is how long it would take me to run the earth.
Well, this is not even a proof, Mr. Neil. But I will let our friend David Wise, or DITRH, explain it, because no one explains it better than him. David, please go ahead.
Here's a model of the flat Earth map, Neil. It could be wrong, it could be right. We don't know yet because we simply don't have your budget. What is important to us right now is that the Earth is obviously and measurably flat. So let me show you how your proof of a ball can also work on a flat Earth. Here is the magnetic field where all the compasses point to. If you go east or west and follow your compass on a globe, you will end up going on the same latitude line, and the same happens on a flat Earth. So here's how. As you can see here, the compass is pointing to this magnet in the center, which represents the magnetic North Pole. As I move west, you will notice that the needle that points to the north is also moving, pointing towards the magnet, and that keeps me on the same latitude line. So if I keep going, I will come back to the same place from the east. So your proof is not really a proof because it works both on a ball and a flat Earth as well. It would have been a problem to us if you said that you can go south or north and come back to the same position, but you know for sure, Neil, that doing that in real life is not possible. There is no plane that does that, and that's because going south will take you somewhere else. Somewhere we do not know anything about.
You make planes fly around the entire Earth to reach their destination when there's a very easy shortcut that everyone will enjoy, even the passengers. But there is no plane that does that. Why? I thought we were on a globe. Are you afraid the pilots will get dizzy? Or is it too cold up there?
Or is there something hidden there that you don't want us to know about?
So, Mr. Tyson, don't tell us that this video of yours is just an off-the-cuff interview and you didn't prepare the points you made, because obviously the video has been edited and anyone could notice that due to the cuts that were made. Not to mention the pre-recorded voiceover on the animations. So it's easy to see that you put some time and effort into this funny show. Just give us some answers, and you're more than welcome to debate any one of us whenever you please. Don't try to debate B.O.B., Kyrie Irving, Tila Tequila, or anyone else from the mainstream media. Debate a real flat earther, and let's find out if you can make one of us look stupid. I don't think you have it in you. Let's see how brave you really are.
Zach, we're done.
Oh, okay.